Albert Awol, the voice of the jungle, broadcasting on the DVC to all points unknown. If you're within the sound of my voice, you're listening to Welcome Home Podcast on the DVC.
Hello and welcome home. Thank you for joining us on episode 119 of Welcome Home, a Disney Parks and Vacation Club podcast. I'm Tom. I'm here with Trevor and Damon. What's going on, guys?
Hey, good morning. Happy spring.
Does it feel like spring where you are? Or
it does, actually.
Yeah? Oh, good.
The snow is melting, so I guess for you guys, the transition from winter to spring isn't quite as big of a deal.
Well, it's a little weird here, and Damon can probably attest to this, because we'll get like a little bits of summer mixed with little bits of winter still. So like for example,
cold yesterday.
Yeah, it was freezing yesterday, and it's like 65 today. Right? It was like 40s yesterday.
Well, we were out. My son had a soccer game, right? Because the season's been all changed up. So we were outside at like 9:00 at night in stadium. It was cold.
Yeah.
I mean, not, relatively for us, Trevor, right?
Yeah,
I know.
Not compared to
I get it. It's all relative because when you're not used to it, yeah.
And you're not used to it. And it's not even like I was, you start to get like, you rush around a little bit, as it gets towards the end. We're like, oh, we got to be there. It's 45 minutes away. It was far. And like, I wasn't really prepared clothing wise, because the other problem is, you're leaving to go somewhere at 4:00. Well, 4:00 is going to be way different than it's going to be when the sun goes down. So, I was way colder. That's the problem I'm always having, is I'm just not prepared for the length. It's fine when I'm, in the sun, and then it gets dark and then you're freezing, but all relative.
I just think I've lived in the South too long at this point, because, when I was a kid living in Jersey, I was the kid wearing shorts during the wintertime. But now it's like I've lived in the South for so long now that
How long have you been in the South?
Probably 12 or 13 years I've lived in the South. So, yeah, a fair amount of time. If you count my time I lived in West Virginia for a little while, and then, I lived in Pennsylvania. That's not really the South, but it was like southwestern Pennsylvania for a couple years.
It was warmer than where you were.
Yeah, it snowed on Halloween when I lived there. So yeah, it was still pretty cold there. But it's I've been here down here for, I guess, I don't know, North Carolina probably 8 years now. So, and I lived in West Virginia for 4 or 5 years. So yeah, that sounds about right. But, you just get used to not having that kind of weather. And then the summers here are so brutal, those couple months where we have 100-degree weather, it gets a little rough. But anyway.
Why don't we get started on some listener questions? Yeah,
we actually didn't get that much this week. There wasn't a ton of news this week. There just wasn't. So,
I booked my trip, so I guess that's interesting.
When did you book your trip for? July? For July?
No, Thanksgiving.
Oh, for Thanksgiving. Okay, so you're going to do Thanksgiving.
Yeah. I was back and forth on what we were going to do for Thanksgiving. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's mostly booked up already, because there was not as many options as I thought in terms of where to stay. I had, I was looking at something a little bit larger. Like I said, I'm on this whole 2-bathroom kick now with, these kids being older and stuff. It's just, dude, it's terrible. So I need the 2 bathrooms. Bay Lake couldn't even get anything, even if I wanted the 1-bedroom. Poly, I probably just won't do. So, outside of that, I decided that I was going to do a 2-bedroom. Nice. So it was between Old Key West and Saratoga, and I know that there's been some discussion that Old Key West is a little bit bigger. The thing is, there's really no difference in terms of points. It was a 1-point difference over the course of 4 days. So to me, that's, doesn't matter at all. And we just opted on Saratoga, the refurb rooms and all that. I was really torn though, because I wanted to do Old Key West because I had never been, but I think we just, we opted for Saratoga for just ease of use. And, the other thing is too, is that come November, it's kind of mid-season for swim. And if we go for 4 or 5 days, he has to have a good gym. And we enjoyed the setup of the gym at Saratoga. So I think that's what just kind of ended up kicking it over the top for us.
I'm guessing part of the reason why it's busy, besides it being Thanksgiving, is because of 50th anniversary stuff, starting the month before.
Yeah, but what's interesting is that this time, I don't know if we're going to be going with our traveling partners. They're actually going to end up, they've had some discussion about what they want to do. but they may end up using points for the cruise that we're doing the year after. Just from the standpoint of, listen, we could debate whether points are worth it or not worth it, but there's just some ease of use, especially in the monetary sense of using points. I've already paid for my points that I've bought, probably 2 times over at this point. So I understand where that line of reasoning comes in, right? It's just this ease of use. So I don't know if they'll make it to, Disney for Thanksgiving. My guess is there'll be a lot of people from our group there. There was last time I went. So maybe we'll meet up with people.
And I think you were saying that, things are really booked up. Probably a lot of that is due to, there is just pent up desire for people to travel who haven't been able to, right? So
now the only thing that I'm a little kind of annoyed about, and I didn't think about it till this kind of, started, was, this whole reservation system. The problem is that I'm not really in the mood at this point to purchase tickets. So I can't really reserve anything, right? Like I have to have my tickets to make the reservations. Is that correct?
Yeah, you got to have your tickets first. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is where I have a little bit of a problem. I'm a late ticket buyer in general, because why do I want to buy tickets and sit on them, right? That money could be doing something else. But this time around, I'm going to probably have to buy my tickets probably before June is my thought.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably buy them earlier rather than later. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, normally I would have bought those tickets in October, right the day before I could have done fast passes, maybe even, September, but I wouldn't have done them much before then. I think I'm going to have to do June. Now, here's the interesting thought process, too. So we are not going to go to Magic Kingdom or Animal Kingdom. We're going to double up Epcot and double up Hollywood Studios. I just don't see the actual reasoning. Now, my wife is not about doing, even if it comes back, right, the Christmas thing, because we did it 2 years ago at this point. So she's like, well, why do we want to go to that? Now, I could have some debate on that, and I could say that, maybe I would want to go back to that again, but I don't need a ticket for that.
When I don't need a ticket. You mean what?
The Christmas party.
The Christmas party. I don't need a ticket to Magic Kingdom for that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I could just buy a ticket to that and still not go to Magic Kingdom any other day if I wanted to.
That's assuming the Christmas party's back this year. But
but again, making that assumption.
Yeah.
I mean, the only downside of this thought process is that for the 50th, not going to Magic Kingdom. But I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know how much I care about that.
About the 50th in general, or just about going to Magic Kingdom for the 50th?
About being at Magic Kingdom for the 50th. I understand that castle's there, but at the end of the day, I have no real reason to go to Magic Kingdom. I mean, Tron's not going to be open.
Yeah, that's fair, because, you'll go, you'll see the castle, and if you don't have anything else you really want to do there, that's it, right?
Yeah, and that's pretty much it for us at this point. I mean, because, right, we haven't been on... Yeah, unless we go in July, which again, even if we go in July, I don't think we're going to the parks. I think we just do Disney Springs. So, right, I have Rise of the Resistance, The Runaway Train, and something else. What will be Ratatouille at that point? So those are the 3. So why do I really need to go anywhere else? And what'd you say?
Ratatouille, Runaway Railway, and that's funny.
So where do I really have to go? Right,
I
at that
understand
point.
That makes sense.
And for me, it's the food. So I just need to make sure I'm that Epcot for that holiday food. And then outside of that, so it's an interesting thought process, especially with the 50th. If we have another quiz, I won't have that 50th castle picture, but I think I might be all right with that.
Yeah, you're right. It's kind of weird to be that close and choose to bypass it, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I also see where you're coming from. Like, I get it. It's just, you're right. It's kind of a weird position to be in.
It is. And I think, if we're back to normal, and the reason that I even planned this trip is because, like I said, I mean, we're 2 weeks away from our second shot. My son, who was 17, is getting his first shot next week, maybe. So, I have my 2 other kids, but my assumption is that they're trying to vaccinate all the kids before high school starts. So my middle one should be vaccinated at that point. And then I just have to worry about getting my daughter vaccinated. But I think that that's a lot of time. I think that will be okay by then. So I made we were going to do Vero Beach, but then it was like, why? if we're all going to be vaccinated, right? Because we didn't really, when we first started playing, we didn't really have this vaccination schedule, down pat. So I didn't really know. Like I was like, it might not be till September till we get our shots, and then the kids might not get theirs till after November. But it looks like it's coming along rather well. So I think if we're all vaccinated, I don't care about masks. That's fine. I can wear them, right? That doesn't bother me. My kids can wear them. They're wearing them to play sports now. My one son's wearing a mask to play soccer. My other son has to wear a mask, during the swim meet until he gets on the block. So my daughter's wearing one for soccer. So they're fine. They're older anyway, but they're fine. It's not even going to be like a question for them. Like, they're just okay. So that's our thought. We'll see how it pans out.
Yeah, that's.
Cool.
I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting to see. I feel like it's hard to plan for November at this point because it's like who knows what things are going to look like with the parks by November, right? Like what know. We have no idea. Like what restrictions are still going to be in place. Like are they still going to the capacity going to be up? We have no idea.
I went under the assumption that it was going to exist like it does today, right? Because then there's no disappointment factor.
Do. Yeah,
and I'm okay with that in November. And like I said, I think that there's going to be, November is notoriously busy in general. So I think that there's going to be, again, only having to deal with 2 parks and really maybe only doing, the parks for half a day each or whatever the case may be. Like we'll go and see what we have. But I'm going to be honest with you, if, Hollywood Studios would probably play more into this, but if we're at Hollywood Studios and we've done those rides, I'm not really all that worried about getting on too many other things. It will be more about Epcot and doing all the food again, because that was fun. And we enjoy Epcot. I think for my wife and myself, that's probably our favorite park. The kids, I don't know, but, so I'm not, like I said, it's going to be a different vacation. It'll be, hopefully more relaxing, but we'll see.
Yeah. It sounds like it's an interesting plan. It is really hard to plan that far out right now. And I think I told you guys that, well, yeah, we did. We talked about it on the podcast that I was looking at a possible trip in early November, actually. So and I haven't planned anything yet, and I probably should, but it's just hard to know what things are going to look like then, and hard to know how you should plan. But I think you're doing the right thing, Damon, in that you're planning just with the idea that things will be the same, even though they probably won't be, but you can't know.
Yeah, I had too many points to not do something at this point.
I know. I was looking at my points the other day, and I was like, "Ooh, God, I have a lot of points sitting around."
Yeah, that's going to be me come next June. I'm going to be hitting that point where it's either I have to rent them or do something with them. So yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. Now my parents may end up coming with us if our friends don't come, and I think we would probably do some DVC rental at that point. Would be my thought. Right, because it's more cost effective to do that than just to straight up book cash at Saratoga, from my understanding, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's what we'll probably do for them.
So just an aside, I actually talked to a coworker that she's booking a trip in June, and it's her and 4 of her friends are going. And I had mentioned to her about she's not a DVC member, but I said, hey, look into this. And she got a room at the Grand Floridian. And she was like, yeah, it was about a third of the cost of buying at rack rate.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, anytime you're doing a DVC resort, points.
Yeah, that's good to know. And hopefully they do the gingerbread stuff, because that's something else that, like, since it was our first time, not last year, but the year before when we went in November, we weren't able to go and do, some of those things. Yeah. And I think that we'll have more opportunity to do things like that. Like I missed out on that, and that was a little disappointing, but I would definitely pick up some of those extra things to do like that. I'm also, to be honest with you, I'm really starting to think about this whole snorkeling thing in Epcot, if that's back.
Oh, you want to do like the snorkeling in the seas?
Again, I would love to do the scuba part, but we're not certified, and to get us all certified, I'm not like a shark person, right? So for me to get scuba certified just to do Epcot and to never do it again just doesn't make a lot of sense to me, I don't think. That's what I would love to do, but I think that we would probably end up just doing the snorkeling just for ease.
You have to be pre-certified before you show up, right? Like because
I believe so.
Yeah, because there's like a lot of stuff you got to do to get certified, right? It's not just like one session you can get certified.
No, you have to do so many hours, and
yeah.
And the thing is, there's a lake out here by us, that they do all the certification in, right? So, I mean, it's not that we couldn't get certified prior to going, but I just feel like it's a little bit of effort for something we'd probably, and you know, the cost too, for something that we would probably never do again. But there's just something that says, man, snorkeling versus scuba diving in the Epcot tank would be really cool.
That would be a really cool experience. Yeah.
But I would have to look into that. And, you know, the other thing is too, is I don't know how interested my daughter would be in that, snorkeling either. We couldn't get her to do, or was it one of the boys? Remember when they had the snorkeling at, the water park?
Oh, at Typhoon Lagoon, the shark.
Yeah. Which was awesome.
Yeah.
I have to remember who it was. There was one of the kids that, or was it all of them? Maybe all of them would not do it. I don't remember. But
probably because it was cold.
No, just because there were sharks down there.
Mm.
So
yeah, but they're not like sharks that are going to go after you, right?
Can you explain that to
no,
no,
I cannot. No,
no, okay.
No, I cannot explain that to. No, that's funny. So that's cool that you got a trip planned. I don't know what I'm doing for my November trip yet. I'm still up in the air. So, but like you, I got a ton of points just lying around. I got to do something with them. So
yeah.
All right. Well, that was a good conversation. Look, it's starting to feel like normal again. We're talking about planning trips and about going and all that. Yeah. Sorry, Trevor. I know you just had to cancel yours, so I'm sorry.
No, I postponed it. It's not canceled. I moved it from October to February because, kind of what Damon was saying, just not knowing what the landscape is going to look like for us. There's the other factor of traveling internationally. I don't think things will be ready enough by October. And also, we actually literally had our trip scheduled for the day after the 50th started, which when I started thinking about it was like, that would be awesome to be there for that. But
also a nightmare.
Yeah. Trying to figure out a, pandemic trip with the 50th didn't sound very appealing. So February,
it's like it sounds like really appealing to go like on New Year's Eve, but it also would be a total nightmare. You know what I mean? Like it's the same kind of thing, right?
I would be mentally exhausted about 15 minutes into being at a park, and that would be it.
Yeah,
anyway,
pretty
much. Let's try and get through some of these listener questions. We got a couple of good ones in here.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
You want to do the first one?
Sure. So Andrew put, you have 3 days in WDW in November staying at CCV. You have a 1-day park hopper ticket. Which parks are you visiting and what are you doing with the other 2 days? So actually this kind of goes back to what
this goes right into what we were just talking about
of. For me, if I was staying at Copper Creek, I would still go to Magic Kingdom. And that's just because Magic Kingdom is our default go-to park, and it's accessible from Copper Creek.
I would agree with you. I would say Magic Kingdom, but at the same time, if you haven't done like the Star Wars stuff, it depends on what you haven't done yet, right? So like if you haven't done Rise of the Resistance or Mickey and Minnie's, like maybe I would choose Hollywood Studios in that case because I want to go and do those things. But I agree with you for Magic Kingdom for the 50th, and because you're a boat ride away from Copper Creek. As far as the other 2 days, I think with the holidays, I would kind of do what Damon was just talking about, like do the tour of the gingerbread houses at the different resorts, do like a resort tour, and go check out the decorations at all the resorts.
Yeah, because I think that we're in this weird sort of spot where, depending on how often you go to Disney, there's a lot of things you end up missing. And it's kind of like, during this whole time frame, you can kind of step back and do that. The other thing that for us is it's going to be a little bit more about, whatever sort of tours they have, when they open back up and things like that we've been waiting on. A lot of things that we've been waiting on have just been, my daughter's age as well. So she'll be 11. So it opens up a little bit more of some things that we could go do. So I think that we've always kind of stepped away from the tours because of her age. And I think that for us going now, it would be a little bit more about that.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And, thinking about the resort thing, I just realized, also staying at Copper Creek, you have access, going from Magic Kingdom, you have the resort loop hotels there. And like you were saying, Tom, you could easily spend a day just, get off the monorail, go wander around a resort for a while, hop back on, go to the next resort. and that would be a fun way to use up a day, in my opinion.
Yeah.
A cheap way too.
Yeah.
I was just about to propose because I know some people do a monorail bar crawl. You could do that too if you like to drink. That's a thing you can do. But with all the decorations,
an appetizer crawl.
Oh yeah, you could do that too.
Oh yeah, that sounds like a really good idea, actually.
Yeah, I mean, with all the decorations though, there's so much you can do, especially when they do have the gingerbread houses and all that. And I mean, of course, going to Disney Springs too, they have the trees and all the decorations there. So I think there's a lot you can do. And I think it just depends.
The trees are a little bit of an S show, though. I'm gonna be honest with you.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, it's a little bit of an S show.
Like because there's too many people there, or just
and just where it is and how they funnel people in and out is just a little brutal.
Yeah, because it's in that back corner where the buses used to be, right?
Yeah.
And
then you have that stage out in front, which makes it this weird congregation point of doom, which is part of the problem. Where I kind of get. Like, I get both sides of it, right? You have this big open area, so let's do that so it doesn't get crazy. But then on the other hand, what you have is just people just standing there.
Kind of like that walkway between where Small World and Peter Pan is, just a mess of people going in all directions. But
this is even worse because they're just standing.
They have a reason to stop, right? They'll stop mid-stride and start watching the stage.
Yeah. I find that a tough area. But I get the reasoning, because to funnel it smaller would then also be tough. So I get it, but they were cool. You know what the other problem kind of with the trees is? The best part about the trees would be these phenomenal pictures. And I'm sure there's times where there's not as many people there. I get it, right? Because I know someone's going to tell me that. I understand. But for the average person going there, it's very difficult to get my kid with the tree by themselves sort of picture there. I mean, I think maybe we got like half of one, you know what I mean? But it's hard there. So what I would love that to be would be like, hey, let's get all the kids in front of every tree picture. And then that trail would be phenomenal. But unfortunately it's not like that.
Yeah. It's hard to
all the time. Like I said, I'm sure there's times that it is.
Yeah, you have to go like right before closing or something. Yeah.
Man, I don't even know. I saw the line before closing when we were there that one time, and it was worse.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
I think you almost have to go during the day, like when it's not dark out, at maybe, I don't even know when it opens though. Is it open all day?
No,
I don't even remember.
No, because we were there during the day, and I remember, I think it opens later in the afternoon, or at least it did the one day we were there.
I wish it was open all day. That would be better.
Yeah, that was earlier in the afternoon, though. Or earlier in the day. Yeah. So either way, back to the original question was, there's obviously lots to do outside of the parks, and honestly, I think the big overarching theme is just resort hopping, because there's so many resorts that you can go to, and you can find little things that you wouldn't see otherwise, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And then there's probably going to be some extra cool stuff to do for the 50th too. So there's probably going to be some of that kind of stuff that they haven't even announced yet. So.
Yeah, of course. The other thing to keep in mind is going into this next year, we don't know what we're going to see, because we don't have any precedent for what's going to happen now, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll have to wait and see.
Okay. I'll get Glenn's question. I like this one. And
Glenn, I need to note here that Glenn has emailed us and declared himself our Belgium ambassador. So I need to state that.
All right. So Glenn, our Belgian ambassador,
self-proclaimed.
Yeah. Did you guys have a Disney turning point? What made you go from Disney is fun to Disney is life?
Disney's not life for me, so I can't say it like that. I will say though that I think the turning point for me, right? I've always been an animation person, always been a Disney movie person, right? That's always been. But I think having kids was that turning point of, hey, let's make Disney this family vacation spot. And I think that's where kind of delved in deeper to Disney was for that family aspect and having this centralized location with stuff to do, right? So something that you're always going to come back to. And that's, like I said, kind of what it is for me. You know, Disney is definitely not life for me, but it definitely went up the scale a little bit once we had kids.
That's fair. What about you, Tom?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Damon. Like, I don't feel like anything in my life is you know, specifically my life. You know, like this is obviously a focus and it's a big thing that we love. But it's I don't know. It's hard to say that Disney is life. Yeah, and I don't know what the turning point would have been anyway. I mean, you know, my wife and I got engaged at Disney World, and we got you know, we had our honeymoon there. And then, you know, of course, kind of to what Damon's saying, you know, becomes even more amplified when you have kids. And, you know, we spend a lot of our time watching Disney stuff. And I mean, I think we probably use Disney Plus more than we use any other streaming service, because my daughter, you know, was really into a lot of that stuff. So I don't know what the turning point necessarily was. I think it's just kind of always been there, you know?
Yeah, I think, you know, I was trying to think of a particular turning point, and similarly, you know, I feel like there has been phases. Like, you know, I first went as a kid, and, you know, it always stuck in my head. It was always something that, you know, given the opportunity to talk about it or know that a trip was coming, you know, I always wanted it to be a part of my life. And then the next big turning point was when I took my wife for the first time, because we were dating, we were in high school, and she came with my family. And that was like, that kind of was like rediscovering it. And that brought it. Yeah. And so that brought it to another level. And then, you know, me and my wife were both in on it. And then yeah, similarly, like you said, Damon, you know, once we had our son, and, you know, he started getting old enough that we started talking about planning trips, that kind of brought it to another phase. So it's never been like, you know, it's all Disney all the time. It's kind of been, you know, there's points where we're like, oh yes, you know, I want to be at Disney, like, you know, every opportunity I can. And then there's been points where it hasn't been as big of a priority. It's always been a part of my life. It doesn't define my life, I guess, is the big thing.
Yeah, I guess that's when I read Disney as life, like that. It doesn't define my like everyday life, right?
Yeah.
So, although I do have a completed Lego Cinderella Castle sitting on my kitchen table right now that I have to figure out a place to put. I finished it last night.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. I'm kind of sad, though. I'm done now. And I'm like, now I got to figure out something else to do. So, anyway. So Bobby wants to know, since everybody has a surplus of points, should Disney have an all DVC cruise ship? Bobby, we did a whole waitlist episode on this. Where you been?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to call back to that episode, though. Go listen.
Yeah, go listen to our whole episode we did about this.
But the short answer is yes.
Yeah, the short answer is yeah, sure. Why not? Yeah. Okay, so then we got Joan. I assume that I'm not the only parent that takes a picture of their child in the same spot every trip. Where in the parks resorts is the best place to start a photo tradition? I think that's hard to answer. I feel like that's an individual family thing. Like what?
Oh, definitely. So ours is in Norway by the big wooden, what's that thing? It's not an elf. What is that thing?
The troll.
The troll, yeah.
Yeah, the troll. Interesting. That's an interesting spot. So, like, what made you pick that spot?
I don't think it was us. I think it was our friends, and I think we try to get that picture.
I'm not there yet with my daughter, so, like, but we will be at some point, and I'm not really sure what we'll pick. I feel like it'll just be, I don't know, an organic thing that just happens, right?
Well, I think that's what it is you get this first picture that you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. You know, I think our biggest one, though, is I think I've shared this at Hilton Head. We have a picture of the kids every single year on the beach, sitting down in the sand, looking towards the ocean. I kind of equate Hilton Head and Disney together a lot, because when we were in New Jersey and we were making that drive down to Disney, we would always stop at Hilton Head. My wife's family has a house there. We would stop there as kind of our break on that long trip, at least going down. And then, you know, coming back, we would do the nice long 18-hour trip. So I kind of equate that together. So I think for me, on most of those trips, we've always gotten that picture. So that kind of supersedes the Disney one. But I think that it would be the troll if I had to pick Disney. And it made a great book, Tom. I think that, sure. you should pick one of these, because I have those pictures and I put it together in a book, and it's every year of the kid's life. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. I definitely need to find a spot that we're going to do that. But I don't know, Trevor, have you done that with your kid, or have you guys done that? Or
so it's funny. Like I'm thinking about it, and there's not any one particular place that we have to get a picture. There's always, I mean, there's the usual ones like the castle and everything, but I think for us, what defines those pictures, of what defines that we go back to something again, is if there is an actual, a memory or something tied around it at the time. So, for us, So actually, in thinking about it, like when we went to, we started off going to Disneyland. In California Adventure, there's a play area, and it's based on Up. It's the Explorers from Up. I can't remember the name of it right now.
Wilderness Explorers, I think.
Yeah, that's it. And so we always would make sure we go in there, because for my son, that was a place that, we saw, a lot of good memories in there when he was really young, and we kept repeating that. And so we got a lot of pictures in there. And again, not a specific place in there, but just, that's been the driving factor for us, and kind of like to what you guys were saying, is, it's that first picture or that first memory that I think kind of defines that. And I guess the only thing I'll say to that is, don't be focused on making that happen. It has to be organic. It has to, it will happen.
Yeah. I agree with you, Trevor. What's funny is that I didn't realize this until I thought about it, as you kind of were talking about that. And we also do a Snow White picture with the boys, because I think the first time my son took a picture with Snow White, like she gave him a hug and a kiss, right? We're talking pre-pandemic days, and it was funny, right? So we used to tease him about it a little bit. And so we've consistently gotten that Snow White picture with the boys, because it's just kind of funny.
Right. That's exactly it. Is, you have to just, think about the stuff that stood out to you on your trip. And I think that will more define what becomes important to you as you make more trips. Right.
Yeah. Cause I'm just thinking go ahead. Sorry, Damon.
No, I was going to say, no, I agree.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of photos of my daughter from like my last trips, and like there's a photo of her asleep in her stroller that we all took together in front of the Tree of Life, where we're all kind of like, we did a thing where we were all pointing at her, like where we're, while she was asleep. That was kind of funny, and maybe that was a thing we could do. But there's also one in front of the Haunted Mansion where she's just like not having it. She's just got a look on her face where she's, just not happy in the sun and heat and everything. So, I feel like those are a couple places we could probably do it. I've got some good pictures from Sci-Fi Dine-In too, but I don't know if we're going to do that every year. I mean, as much as I love that restaurant, but yeah, I think we've kind of started. We've got a lot of photos from the last trips, and that'll definitely ramp up as she gets older, and we'll start doing. I think a lot of it's going to be what she wants to do too. Like the things that she really loves. So I think that's where we're going to get to. And now that my daughter's going to be 3 in a month here, and once she's 3 and she's starting to kind of understand the world around her a little bit more, I think she's going to start really enjoying a lot of the things at Disney when we take her next time. So
yeah, and on the flip side of that is things that you thought would be what she wanted, you may find that she completely shies away from them, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, you kind of have to just let it roll, right? You can't force it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So Glenn again is chiming in here, wanting to know if we think that DVC sales will stagnate.
This is a great question. I never really thought about this.
Yeah. So do you think at some point the DVC sales will stagnate, although the new generation keeps going to Disney, but they will keep going with the points of their parents? Will the next generation buy their own points?
Oh, and this is so interesting because it's such a... I think there's always going to be a new generation buying points, right? Because not everyone has points. So there's always those people that never had any points that want to buy the points, right? So they're their own independent group. But I have to just think of this now personally, right? I don't know. I think I'll end up, at the end of the day, my points go Saratoga. I'll be 80 something. So, will I have new points from a different place that I'm giving to my kids at that point, I don't know. And here's an interesting take on this. Will my kids continue to go to Disney when I don't go with them? Right? For, they have their own family. Will they take them to Disney, or will, because they've been to Disney so much, not go? So we were of hey, my parents only took us to Disney once and it was this crazy magical place. And, my aunt was the one that ended up taking me to River Country, but neither here nor there. I didn't go a lot when I was younger. So I wanted to have this, my kids go there a lot. Now, my kids have gone there a lot every year, at least once a year, excluding last year. So will they think of this place as something different because they've gone a lot? You know what I mean, right? It's definitely this weird dynamic. You don't really know how that's going to turn out.
Well, it's interesting kind of what you're talking about. So like my parents didn't have points, right? So I'm the first one to buy points now, but my daughter will, end up with my points at some point. But, my best friend, his parents have a ton of points and they go by themselves all the time. They took him a ton when he was a kid and then they kept going without him for a long time. He just kind of got tired of it and didn't want to go anymore, but has kind of rediscovered it now, like in adulthood. You know what I mean? So it's interesting because you don't know if you're taking your kids so much that maybe they don't want to do it as much when they're adults, or maybe that is a special place for them and then they're going to want to take their kids at some point. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's a very, specific question on just how the kids, and every kid in your family is probably going to be a little different in terms of what they do. Right. I mean, if we had the ability to kind of, it's interesting. My wife's family did this, when the grandmother passed away and she, had some change, and they kind of put this money aside for family vacations every year. Could do something like that. You can force your kids to go to Disney. Here's this money, but you can only use it if you go to Disney. Or here's points. They cannot be sold or rented.
That's funny.
So the interesting thing is that, so the one coworker that I know that is actually a DVC member, he got his parents, or his parents gave him his points. So I've seen that already. So his parents were going, and they still go with him, but it's him and his wife now are the main ones using the points. So that's already happened, but whether or not that's going to be the rule or the exception, like you guys were saying, that's really hard to tell. It's, it's, I feel like it can definitely go either way. And, I'm kind of in the same boat as you, Damon, with my son, is that, we're taking him all the time because, when I was growing up, we didn't get to go very often. But, when he hits that point where he's starting to make his own decisions about trips, he could go either way. Is that, he may decide to, go and do other stuff, or he may keep going to Disney. But, I really don't know what's going to happen at this point. I would like to think he'll keep going to Disney, but, when he's an adult, he'll make his own decisions. And, at that point, I don't know if I'm going to be done going to Disney. So
yeah.
So that's the other side of it is, I'll be the older generation now, and I'll probably be one of those people, the seniors that are using their points every year. And so my kid's not going to be able to use my points.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where I'd like to have enough points to be able to, and this is, this point pipe dream, I'm sure that we all have, because I think, wait, was this was a question. I don't know if we had it here though, but it was a question somebody asked about how many points. I mean, for me, I want to have enough points that I can go, my kids can go, and their family can go. Right? That was that question. So, I mean, that's kind of what I look at for my perfect amount of points. And that seems like an awful lot of points. I mean, cause I guess what you're talking is probably for me is two bedrooms. I think you could probably squeeze that out with that many people, two bedrooms.
You're not even talking like a grand villa. You want to go two separate.
I kind of do. I think that might be a better situation.
It's just more sleeping space, right?
More sleeping space. But I think the other thing is too, is that if you have, let's just say I have a kid that doesn't have kids yet, right? So if they want to stay with us, because then you have the kids and grandkids, right, situation on one set of those rooms with the crying and the formula and all that craziness going on, right? And the naps during the day and all that, right? Have that over there. And you have the other one, which is my wife, myself, and, the adults or maybe even the older grandkids that are kind of done with that baby grandkid stuff. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of my thought process.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I feel like I'm going to be very like cognizant of what I felt like being a parent and trying to make it as easy as possible for my kids being parents. Not that it was hard being parents, but I look back and go, wow, there's a lot of things I should have done differently, right? I think everyone thinks that.
Yeah.
So you just try to make it as easy as possible. And I know that if I had that opportunity, I would want the exact same thing. Give me, the rooms with kids and without kids.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, Gina, by the way, asked that question.
Gina, Tom tried to cross you out, but I wouldn't allow it.
We're running out of time here. We're 40 minutes in, and we're only on questions, and we have other stuff to talk about. So I was going to save Gina for another week, but you answered it. I think I'm at a good amount of points right now. I almost think I have too much points at the moment. I would think about selling some, but I probably won't. I like having how many points I do. So
yeah, and I think we expanded our points from 100 to 175, which for now feels like the right amount of points for our current situation. But yeah, I feel at some point we'll probably expand that again. It's just, right now we don't need any more than that.
Yeah, I also got a little spoiled on the 2-bedroom that I did last trip, and I'm just like, now I kind of want to stay in like at least 1 bedrooms going forward.
That's the danger, and that's part of why we expanded our points, was that we liked the lake view at the Poly, so we made sure we have enough points to do a lake view all the time.
Exactly. So I wanted to highlight Jim here. Jim had emailed us and said he really loves listening to the podcast over the past couple of years. So Jim's a longtime listener. So thanks for listening, Jim. You three make a great team and give a different perspective than most other podcasts pertaining to Disney. So I just had to put this in here to inflate our egos.
Tom trying to gloss us over for some more 5-star reviews.
That's what it is. Yeah.
So I have to interrupt here because I found a very interesting tidbit about Tom. Yep. So here's the interesting thing. So Tom is always asking for these 5-star reviews and this, that, and the other thing. And hey, yet what showed up in my feed was Tom totally bashing Dr. Pepper.
Oh God. Yeah.
Berate Dr. Pepper. Not even like, it wasn't even really like, funny. It was just a mean Dr. Pepper review. That's all there is to say about it. There was nothing good. And I said to myself,
I think it was terrible.
I said to myself, look at Tom and everything he says about reviews on our podcast, and then he's going out there for no real good reason, and not even
popped up in my feed. I couldn't help it.
But it wasn't even like it was one of those reviews of Dr. Pepper, like, hey, it's not bad, but maybe this. It was just a straight out, this is terrible, tastes like nothing.
It did. It tastes like.
How do you think those poor people that worked on this formula of Dr. Pepper feel?
I don't know, but they should get better at their jobs because it was terrible.
Guys, think about that when Tom talks about 5-star reviews, everybody.
That's really funny. No, so I'll give background. My drink of choice and my addiction in life is Diet Dr. Pepper. I love Diet Dr. Pepper. I drink it all the time. And I saw that there was a Dr. Pepper Zero that came out. And I got excited. I was like, oh, I like zero stuff usually, right? So I got it, and it tasted like nothing to the point where I thought I might have COVID. Like, I literally was like freaking out because I'm like, did I lose my sense of taste? Like, I don't understand here. I can't taste this. It tastes like nothing. And then it popped up on my feed as like an advertisement, I guess, because it knows I like Dr. Pepper. And I was just like, this tasted like nothing. It was terrible. I was all excited for it, and it was awful. Horrible. So that's what happened.
Horrible. Keep your opinions to yourself sometimes, Tom.
I didn't think it was that bad. I just said it tasted like nothing. But
it was a bad review. It was funny though, because I saw it and I was literally laughing out loud to myself. This is hysterical.
Listen, I'm still going to drink my Diet Dr. Pepper. I'm just not going to get the zero anymore because it bummed me out. I was sad. I was so excited for it that it was sad.
Maybe you just figured out their ad campaign. If it's zero, it tastes like nothing. Right?
Tastes like nothing. There you go. Yeah. Anyway, that's really funny. I was scared what you were going to come up with there, but that wasn't really anything. That wasn't a big deal. Just Oh, sad. Anyway,
back to Jim.
Yeah, back to Jim telling us how great we are. So Jim just recently purchased DVC. I don't know if recently, he said, but after some email discussions with us and listening for a while, he decided to purchase DVC, and then got a boardwalk contract. So welcome home. You know, great that you got that. Jim said we are senior citizens and purchased the contract with a plan for my wife and myself to go to Disney every year and for us to take our children and their families. This is literally what we were just talking about. It's kind of funny that you brought that up. So his question is, do you know of any podcast blogs that are specifically geared to senior citizens in Disney? I would like to hear what other senior citizens do when they visit Disney. Did they have any issues with their experience? Also, do they have a special experience they try to live with each visit? Thanks for the magic, he said.
Okay, so I can only imagine if we just wait a few more weeks, Chad will have one because he's got like 30 different podcasts already. So that's just my guess. So if you wait long enough, my guess is, and since Chad was one of the people that actually responded to this, I can only imagine he's got one in the works at this point.
Yeah,
my DVC Points Senior Edition. I mean, I'll help him name it too.
There you go.
Senior DVC Points. I don't know. Something like that.
Oh man, you're trying to start a war now. Dan is going to be really happy that you're trying to start
it's not a war, but is it not the truth that Chad has like 35 shows a week?
Yeah.
Which is impressive.
Chad does have an impressive amount of shows. That's true. We have a hard enough time doing this one show, let alone all those shows. So
yeah. So here's the interesting thing about podcasts and senior citizens in general, that I don't feel we're quite at a point yet where there's enough seniors that are engaged in doing this kind of media, right? Like there's, or at least, again, this is my own personal experience, is that I haven't found, Disney or otherwise, a lot of seniors, relaying this kind of information.
It's true.
Yeah. So I don't, honestly, I saw this question and I was looking around and I can't find anything, I can't find anything specific to senior citizens, but, I don't feel that a lot of the stuff at Disney is senior specific anyway. And by that, I mean, it's not, the same rules that apply for everybody kind of apply for seniors,
Yeah. But I don't think that's what this was about. This was more about like, hey, tips and tricks of bringing your kids and grandkids to Disney every year. I think it was more like that.
Yeah.
And I would say that, I'm sure there's a lot of things out there like that. And I think it is a little bit different than maybe what other people do, especially in points and how often you're going. And again, this whole 1 room versus 2 rooms, right? Like I think to myself that if I'm going with my grandkids, that I might want 2 rooms rather than 1 for that whole situation I just talked about. So I don't know if there's anything specific out there, but I think you could probably garner your own, information out there by asking. I think while Trevor's right that maybe there's, nothing specific. And sometimes, I know that my mom wouldn't necessarily Facebook to go find information, that we may be going down that path. It is very interesting because we both have the same breed of dogs. We have Australian Shepherds, and I'm always on the Australian Shepherd Facebook groups, and if she's like, hey, my dog's having this problem, I'm like, well, why don't you just go in the group and ask? Yeah, I don't know about that. Or, hey, did you read that? Because I've read that on 3 different groups. And yeah, sometimes they're just not there yet. But I think that doesn't necessarily just pertain to senior citizens. I think that could be anybody. My cousin's not on Facebook either. So
it's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a topic we cover at some point. Maybe we do like a wait list around it or something. I think it would be an interesting thing to cover. I'm not sure who we'd bring on, but I think it's an interesting question because to your point, there are some different things that you're doing there. There's some different
your point management is way different.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Now, I think maybe Jim might have actually touched on something here because the reason that we started this podcast in the first place was we all saw a gap in discussion and a gap in the stuff that we were interested in. Jim, I don't know if you're that motivated to do so, but you could definitely start something and share your own experiences, and that's how you can you can learn more and you can evolve this discussion, right?
Jim could come on our show. Jim, if you want to come on the show and do an episode, because the thing is, the more and more that I sit here and just ponder this, I say to myself, well, I think this is also probably one of those things where they're probably making one vacation a year or maybe one vacation every other year if you're going to encompass the whole family, right? So there is a different planning around that than you would do with, 2 or 3 vacations a year, especially in terms of points.
Yeah.
I think there's just a lot of cool little nuances. I think they would apply to everyone, but maybe skewed a little bit more towards the bringing your grandkids crowd. But I think there is a lot of good discussion to be had there. But I'm not necessarily sure if it's a whole every sort. Like, I don't know if it necessitates necessarily its own niche. Personally,
it's an interesting topic though, for sure. And I'm sorry we're not really giving you an answer, Jim, but I think we can definitely try to have a special episode about that. Or I mean, we need to have a wait list coming up sometime here soon because I'm going to be gone for the episode at the end of April, unless you guys want to do this without me. I mean, which you can.
No, nobody's editing anything without you. Sorry, man.
Fair enough.
Not doing it.
Fair enough. We'll just have to have a bank.
But the problem is, as I was saying, is that we probably have 10 waitlist ideas, but where are they all?
That's a valid question. There's supposedly like a topic group for the waitlist ideas within the group, but I don't know if that's.
Who knows what happened there? I know we're always like, hey, put that on the wait list. That would be great. Well, really, all we're telling you is we're too lazy to do anything. That's really
we're not good at keeping notes.
Yeah.
I thought Tom was keeping notes, but I guess not.
No. Too many things going on. But listen, after this episode releases, if you want to give us some ideas on the Facebook group, if somebody wants to start a thread and we can choose the one we want to do for that time that I'm gone, then we'll go with that. So. All right, let's do. We really need to do our ad. We're like way past that. So our ad this week is for DVC Rental Store. The DVC Rental Store, a World of DVC company, offers magical vacations at incredible value. Save up to 60% off retail rates at premium Disney resorts. DVC Rental Store now includes deposits as low as 25% at the time of booking and a built-in cancellation policy for every reservation. And as always, DVC Rental Store pays out the most to members looking to rent their points. Want to learn more? Go to dvcrentalstore.com or call 1-855-DVC-RENT. That's 1-855-382-7368. And of course, when you reach out to them, let them know that Welcome Home sent you. All right. So I had one last comment that I got via email from Elizabeth, just to go back to what we talked about a couple podcasts ago, or maybe it was the last podcast, I don't know. But just got back from WDW on 228, and Big Top Souvenirs unfortunately closed. I think this is going back to our confectionery discussion.
Yeah.
So Big Top is closed. We actually went into the confectionery, and due to the current situation, it just doesn't feel the same. They waited 10 minutes to get in, and didn't seem like it was okay to walk around and browse too much. They're also not making certain in-house treats right now. So even though they're moving it, and I was concerned about that piece, it looks like they're not doing it anyway. And she's saying it'll probably be a best experience after, all the COVID stuff is gone. Also, mentioned that the wait times, and I've read this a lot, that wait times were really inflated. And, that's a general thing, but I'm sure it's even harder for them to calculate it now with the lines being spaced out the way they are. So she listed some wait times here, like, Slinky Dog was only 45 minutes, but it was posted as 90. Splash Mountain was posted as 60, waited 30. I mean, those are actually really short lines. 35 minutes for Splash Mountain, 40 minutes for Mine Train. I mean, those are not bad lines.
Yeah.
Really.
So this is going to play into, I think, one of our upcoming discussions, but it definitely creates a more positive perception. But we'll come back to that.
Oh, look at you doing a tease. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. So thank you for emailing in. I appreciate it. She did end by saying she had a great experience during the restrictions. I already want to go back. So I'm excited. I'm excited to check it out in April and see what it's like and see how it, if it feels different or not. So and of course I'll have a whole trip report when I get back. So. All right, so let's talk about this concept art that was shared for the castle decorations. And it's not really concept art. It's very stylized. It's not exactly what the castle is going to look like, right?
It's a Mary Blair inspired castle. So they specifically said that this is somebody took Mary Blair's art style and did a rendering of the castle with it.
Yeah, with the new decorations that they're going to do for the 50th, which they are already putting up, by the way. So like, I've been seeing reports on every couple days. You know, there's every day it seems like they put up something new.
More of the bunting and those ribbons around the spires certainly look interesting.
Yeah, I don't think they put any of those up yet, but I'm wondering if they're going to wait to do some of the stuff. Like, you know, I see that it looks like the clock is replaced with like a big 50. I don't know if they're going to do that like now, or they're going to wait to do that, you know, until it gets a little bit closer, or until the 50th. I don't know. It'd be interesting. But this is cool art, and I like the fact that they're harkening back to like Mary Blair style. Like, I think that's cool.
I am always all for the Mary Blair style. After really reading and understanding her process and the fact that or the reasoning behind her style, I do appreciate it even more now. So because she had and I should know what the conditions, but she basically had a vision issue where she couldn't see. She couldn't see things clearly. And so that's why she was always doing everything in very bright, very clear, defined colors all the time. So that actually defined a lot of her style. And I like that, artists, her interpretation of things I find is very unique because of that. And I love the fact that, she did have such a huge impact, and you keep seeing that being brought forward into things like this castle rendering. The one thing I'm wondering is, they kind of show like the pixie dust, like it looks like Tinkerbell flying around the castle. Wouldn't it be funny if they were like just blasting glitter off the castle?
Constantly blasting glitter. That's my worst nightmare. For real, I hate glitter. That is like my worst nightmare.
Yeah, just getting near the castle and you're just covered in glitter for the rest of the day, and then it's like in all the rides. Yeah, I know that would be awful.
Oh. When people give me a card that has glitter on it, it just goes straight in the garbage. Do
you find when you're holding something with glitter, like you almost want to like drop it and wipe your hands, but you can't?
Oh, yeah. I immediately, I'll if I notice there's glitter on something, I immediately just go ugh, and just throw it like it's poison or something. Like I'm just like, get this away from me. Yeah, I hate glitter. I can't stand glitter. It should just not exist. Yeah, there you go. They found out something new. But anyway, I think this looks cool. If you don't know about Mary Blair, by the way, just like go Google her and see all the cool stuff that she did. Or go
for
all the parks.
Go ride Small World. Go look at the mural in the contemporary.
Yeah. That's Mary Blair.
You'll get the idea.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this is it looks very cool. I'm excited for this, but we also we had a last minute topic we added to this about Bob Chapek, CEO of Disney, formerly the head of the theme parks, now the CEO, states that guest satisfaction at the parks is now higher right now compared to pre-pandemic levels, which is an interesting conversation to have. And, I think part of it is almost what we just talked about with Elizabeth's email, where the lines are not bad, right? The lines seem to be pretty short. I'm sure there's some people that are more satisfied that they don't have to plan stuff way ahead of time.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's people that are happy about that. I've heard some really positive things about the character cavalcades. Like I've seen a lot of the blogs being like, I hope these stick around, like after the pandemic stuff is over. So this is interesting to me.
My wife is very on board with that, by the way. She said if the parades didn't come back, but those stayed, she would be happy.
The character cavalcades?
Yep.
Yeah.
So smaller, instead of the big grand parades where everyone lines up, just smaller, unplanned things. Yeah. I would agree. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Trevor. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's interesting that, that this is kind of reverting back to, at Disneyland, this is a big thing, is that you have wandering characters and you have a lot more impromptu things going on. And I think that may be something that was phased out in Disney World, just because of the sheer size of it. But, it definitely sounds like that's something that was missing. And it's something that, talking about making magic and everything, is that, those magic moments really, they're the unexpected moments. And when it's, you're walking along and all of a sudden, Tinkerbell comes by on a float and you weren't expecting it, like I think that's what people are gravitating towards is, they want to be surprised and they want that unexpected moment. Right.
Yeah, I also think there's something to this too. I think we've talked about this in the past with ticket prices going up, right? So Disney uses ticket prices to control crowds, right? That's a lot of what they do, and that's why they have like the different time periods for the tickets cost different amounts at different times, right? They're trying to attract more people to the parks at certain times and trying to deter people from going to the parks, and that's because not only to make more money, of course, because that's part of it, but they also know that people are a lot happier when the parks are not as busy, right? People are miserable when the parks are busy. And it's funny because you talk to some, like, I don't want to say non-Disney people, but you talk to some people that have maybe just been once, and maybe they went during a busy time and they're like, oh, it was terrible. The lines were so long and everything was so busy. Like, people don't like when the parks are busy. It makes for a bad experience for everybody. And so I think that's probably part of this too. It's just that the parks haven't been as busy because the capacity is, really constrained. And so people are just happier and enjoying it more and enjoying the parks without, just dense crowds everywhere.
Yeah. And yeah, why wouldn't you enjoy that? Right. Why wouldn't you, even for people saying, oh, like this last weekend was busy because of spring break or whatever. It's, current busy is still nowhere near what busy was like when the parks were at full capacity.
What busy really is.
Yeah. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. And I guess, as we move along here, this guest satisfaction, I'm sure Disney is very aware of this, is that, they can't use this as a benchmark and say, well, let's just keep doing things the way we are, because that's not going to be feasible in the long run either. So
yeah,
I guess the other thing to keep in mind is that, as they're announcing things like this, that, people are going to get in their head that, oh, everyone's saying Disney is good. Let's all go to Disney. And as they open it back up, you're going to get back to exactly the problem that you were just talking about, Tom, is it's going to get more and more busy. And it's going to get to a point where, people are going to get miserable again because there's too many people. And to that end, and I've seen this discussion many times, and this is my opinion on this, is that, everyone's saying, don't bring back fast passes. I think that is absolutely the wrong thing to do. If they don't bring back fast passes when they hit a certain capacity in the park, if you don't have those fast passes there, you're basically guaranteed, 2-hour line for everything. And that'll just be miserable for everybody.
Yeah, I want fast passes to come back.
yeah, you have to have them for, like you said, Trevor, for the people that don't go often. They need to at least have a plan.
Exactly. And that's the whole thing, is that, fast passes are there as that means of, not skipping the line, but, rediverting time used standing in line. And, for people, they create a perception of, well, they're letting those people in before us. It's like, well, no, otherwise, at least with fast passes, you have the opportunity to go and do something else while you're waiting for, it's just, you're not standing physically in line. If they had no fast passes, what people's trips would literally turn into is just going from line to line to line. And then looking back and going, well, I rode five rides today in 10 hours. But I didn't do anything else in between. I just stood in line for 10 hours, right? That would be, I think that would be miserable.
Yeah, I think that's like the thing I'm most interested about when I go in April, is like what that's going to be like. Because I'm just so used to fast passes, and it's just almost weird for me that I didn't even have to plan anything, and it's just like, it's going to be interesting.
But a lot of times you're not even necessarily able to fast pass all the new rides anyway.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, that's true.
But go
ahead, sir.
I was going to say for my family, we're not even focused on that. I maybe will get, the one fast pass for new rides, but, all of my fast passes are going towards other rides, even things like Haunted Mansion. Yeah. That, I don't want to wait in line for 90 minutes for that ride.
Well, and that's kind of like, we use our fast passes to book things that we are like can't miss things for us, like, yeah, sometimes it's for the attraction that like is new and you don't want to wait in a 2-hour line for, but also sometimes it's like, we really like to go on Peter Pan, and Peter Pan has a long line usually, so let's do that one. Or we can't miss Haunted Mansion, so let's book that one. Or Big Thunder, whatever.
How many times do you need to ride Peter Pan though?
A lot of times.
What's that turning point number?
What's the turning point number?
I mean, because we've reached it as a family.
You've hit it as a family where you don't need to do it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we do. If there's like no other fast pass, we'll get it. But there's no way I'd ever wait online. But yeah, what is that number? I think there's a number. It's like the number of licks, for a Tootsie Pop. Like there's a number where you're just done with Peter Pan.
Well, what other attractions do you have this for? Like, do you not do Small World ever?
No, got to do Small World. But Small World line is never as bad, really.
No, yeah, because it's a huge, huge throughput.
Those are big boats.
Yeah.
No, I Peter Pan is one of those weird childhood ones for me. That's like.
I mean, I like it, but there's definitely a number because that line is too crazy.
It is too crazy. We typically will not wait standby for that. That's a fast pass or bus one for us.
Yeah, for us, it's an every other trip because we don't feel the need to do it every single trip, but we will hit it up.
Trevor's almost reached that number.
Yeah, and we also did it a lot in Disneyland, which by the way, Disneyland is even worse because it's not an omnimover. They actually have to stop the cars, let people on and off, and then get them moving again.
Oh God.
Yeah.
That's rough. Yeah, I feel like that's just one of those rides that I like from child. Like my mom loves that ride. My mom will still go on that ride every single time, and like it's just one that in childhood was a big deal. But it's funny because I was watching that Imagineering story again, and they were talking about how if you bring somebody on Pirates of the Caribbean with no nostalgia for it, that it's kind of a boring ride. Like that, an Imagineer said that. Like, and it's a weird thing, but I'm sure a lot of people feel that way about Peter Pan. Like if you don't have that nostalgia for it, it's not the most technologically advanced ride in the world. It's not the most thrilling ride in the world. It's Peter Pan. I have nostalgia for it, and it's something I feel like I need to ride. But, I don't know how we got on talking about this, but.
Well, I mean, it was kind of stemming from, fast passes and why certain rides need fast passes, right?
I did think what he said was interesting though too, is where Chapek said, we learned some things. We've learned to operate under constraints all the time by delivering some same Disney magic to expect. But we've been in a fortunate situation where we've had a lot of demand in the past. In many cases, that has exceeded what we can actually supply in terms of how many people we can put in the park. And then he also said, though, that they learned a lot under those constraints and that it's going to create a reemergence scenario where magic is going to be even greater for our guests when they do come back to our park. So I don't know exactly what he means by that. Like, I don't know if it means they're going to keep some of the more popular things like the cavalcades like we're talking about, or if they just have some plans, to do some different things. But I just thought that was an interesting comment from him.
I think, what I extract from that is that, having this amount of downtime or these restrictions in place, it's given them a chance to rethink a lot of things that, over time, the parks have ballooned in size. They've ballooned in the amount of things going on. And in that, a lot of times, things get lost. They'll make decisions because it's purely a financial decision at the time, or the person making the decision doesn't always think about, did it actually make sense from the guest's point of view? And I think having this downtime has given them a chance to go back and really look at, why are we doing certain things? Does this actually make sense? Right. And so, I hope what he's alluding to is, things like the character cavalcades and maybe what I was talking about, that more of that, giving people the opportunity to stumble on something instead of, having to schedule everything. Maybe I hope that's something that they've learned from it, or, maybe they've taken something away from that, you have to allot for spontaneity.
Yeah. I think it gave them a chance to reset, and kind of rethink things. And when your hand is forced sometimes with this kind of stuff, where you have constraints, I think it makes you sometimes be a little more creative and come up with some new things and some different ideas. And obviously those things have been pretty successful. So
yeah. All right.
You guys want to talk about a spork?
I didn't realize how much I needed sporks until this past year.
A spork is a very versatile, utensil. You can use it as a spoon or
it really
fork.
is. It's that, if you're eating, let's say, like elbow pasta with like sausage in it,
Oh yeah,
man, like how do you not need a spork? There's a lot of times when my wife will hand me dinner, right? She cooks something and then hands it to me with a fork. And I'm like, no, this 100% requires a spoon at the end of the day. And she's like, no, how are you going to, like, I've had to go the spoon route, this past year over a bunch of things where really it's been a spork. That's what's been needed here.
So you're next time you go to Galaxy's Edge, you're gonna buy this $11 spork that they're selling?
It's too expensive for me. I already have, a 6-pack of stainless steel sporks in my cart on Amazon for the same price.
Wait, so you just bought some metal sporks?
Yeah, as I saw this come up on our thing, I was like, yeah, I really need sporks at this point. I would love maybe one of these, but they're just a little too expensive
these are a souvenir spork with a travel bag. Like,
if it's in my kitchen, I don't need a travel bag.
Yeah, spork on the road. You never know when you're going to need a spork.
well, I'm going to roll up into Albert and Walters and, whip my spork out of my travel bag.
It's just,
and
excuse me, I need to get my spork. Thank you.
Yeah.
I brought my own utensils.
Yeah. See how that goes. Yeah.
I mean, I remember when they were originally, selling this. This is like, remember when they first opened?
Okay, people were stealing them first.
People were stealing them. Yeah. Yeah, so then they were like, well, people are stealing them, so we might as well sell them, right? So.
I mean, it's a neat design, and the problem is it's a souvenir thing. So to your point, Damon, I'm not going to use them every day. I would rather, like you said, just buy some off of Amazon.
Yeah. Well, the other part of this, though, besides them selling sporks, is now they have plant-based wraps in Galaxy's Edge. And I know, Damon, you're all about the plant-based meat, so...
Well, certain ones, I like to take a gander at them. So I would love to, like... there was on Shark Tank, there was a new, chickpea based, I think, meat it was. And the guy was kind of talking how, it's not a lot of, meat eaters and vegetarians. There's a lot of people that are kind of, walking that fine line between them. And I would say that I think that's where I eventually see myself. I was actually talking to my wife today about this. Like, I go 1 or 2 days a week vegetarian, and then the rest not. Like, I would be, kind of a start to this. And these sound really good. I mean, I would be on board for these.
So you got, for breakfast, there's the Triple Suns breakfast wrap with a plant-based egg, in quotations, smoky chickpeas, onion slaw, and roasted tomato sauce.
Why is it that anything that's smoky is just good anyway, right?
Smoky is
good.
Yeah.
Get that campfire taste going, and that's all you need.
And then there's the, what would you say, zucchini wrap with zucchini, smoked chickpea, onion slaw again, creamy garlic tahini sauce, and fresh cilantro wrapped in a warm pita. That sounds good.
Until you said that, I actually just read that as zucchini wrap.
Oh, really? Yeah. They just came up with a Galaxy's Edge way to say zucchini.
Yeah.
That's all it is, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, these sound interesting.
Yeah, and I'm kind of like you, Damon, that like I've been finding more and more I'm gravitating towards plant-based stuff, and it's only because I have an issue with dairy in that dairy doesn't like me. So
yeah. And Trevor, I feel you there, and I've been just trying to like bully through dairy. You know what I mean? Like I've been like, oh, dairy really isn't great. Like it kind of upsets my stomach a little bit, but I love ice cream and I love this and I love that. And I think I'm just done at this point. Like, I think I'm just finally like, I can't do it. Because cheese is the tough part, man. I think I could do cheese on a limited basis, but I've just been doing way too much cheese.
See, I'm just all in on, I've found some chickpea based cheese shred. So,
yeah, I heard there's some cashew based cheese as well.
Yeah. And that's where I'm at. And I've been saying this for a while is, I really want to see Disney do more of this kind of stuff because, I don't want it to be, entirely, meat free, but, for many years I was like you, I was just like, dairy, I'll just, deal with it and, have the upset stomach all the time. But the more that I've been moving away from it and realizing that, hey, this, I actually feel better not eating this stuff or not, avoiding the dairy and avoiding the stuff that, upsets my stomach. I just want to have the options. It's not that I expect them to, do everything dairy free, but more of these kinds of options across the board means that at least, when I'm looking around, I can make the decision day by day. And like you said, some days it's, I will have meat and I'll have a bit of dairy. Other days it's like, nope, I'm just going to have my plant-based stuff and that's it. So, I just want them to have more of these choices.
And it seems like they're doing a lot of that, right?
Yeah.
It seems like they're really offering a lot of plant-based stuff around the parks. I feel like they're very much a leader in this. So I feel like I don't want to do Jeremy's job for him, but I feel like the spork is going to be part of the meme he does for this episode. So because Damon was so adamant about his spork usage. So
yeah.
Anyway. All right, so let's talk about we're like way running out of time here, and we have like way too many topics left. Again, this is another one where I thought we weren't going to have enough to talk about because there wasn't a ton of news, and here we are.
But I think the unexpected discussion of trip planning at the beginning threw us off. So
yeah, that was a whole like 15 minutes. So and there's not a lot to talk about with this honestly. There's Imagineering is sharing like a first look at the Spaceship Earth lighting. They're doing some tests. It looks very cool. I like the fact that these like little points of light that they're putting on there can not only like come out the front, but it also comes out the holes on the side, so it can like make lines in like the outer skin of Spaceship Earth, which is super cool.
Yeah, these lights honestly look like lights that I bought at Costco recently.
They look like the touch lights that they like advertised on like late night TV. Yeah, they do
exactly. I mean, again, not bad, but.
Well, I mean, you're not really supposed to see them, right? I mean, like you're only going to see you don't want to see the actual fixture. You're only supposed to see the light. And I mean, these are going to be so high up and the Spaceship Earth is so big and these are so small. You probably aren't going to notice them even during the day all that much, right?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I'm not staring at Spaceship Earth that much anyway.
Yeah. You're not like getting binoculars out when you walk in and being like, I'm going to find those lights.
Yeah.
Like,
although I might now that you've said something.
Now that I've said so. Although I did notice, I was watching it, I watched the video that they put out and I was like, man, they really got to like power wash Spaceship Earth. It's looking a little grimy on the some of those panels in that video that they put out.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't notice that from far away though.
Yeah. Again, that's the thing is, for these big showpieces that, like you said, unless you're standing there with binoculars, you kind of miss a lot of the little things after a while.
I agree. I tell you this though, I'd hate to be and maybe this is just me. I'm sure some people are fine with this, but I'm sure I'd hate to be the person hanging off the side of that thing, like all the way at the top, putting those things on. That just seems terrifying.
I actually think that the worst place to be is so once you get to the northern hemisphere of Spaceship Earth, that's easier, I think, because you're like Spaceship Earth is underneath you. It's when you're on. You're still on the
side.
Yeah, on the side, like kind of hanging underneath, kind of like in the one picture here, where the person is like kind of off to the side underneath of it. Yeah. That to me doesn't feel good because there's nothing underneath you, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I'm excited for this. This is cool. I think this is going to be a really neat addition to Epcot. I wish it was premiering by the time I got there. So, but good news, if I go in November, it should be there by then. So
I was going to say this, more reasons to go back again later. And this is what we always talk about is, every trip, it's like you'll never have a definitive, like, this is, I've done everything at Disney trip, right?
Unless you go like every week, like,
yeah. Well, even at that, there's always stuff changing, right? Like you
but like from like week to week, like, you might not, but you're right though. There's always like new food. There's always special things going on. There's always new merchandise. There's always something new. So,
yeah.
All right, so we don't need to cover that too much. And like I said, let's run out of time. So
I want to talk about this one too, just because
the Jungle Cruise thing.
Yeah, so there was more details released on the backstory for the Jungle Cruise at Disneyland and Walt Disney World, featuring Alberta Falls
instead of Albert Falls.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Albert Falls' daughter, Alberta.
Yeah. Which is funny because I live in Alberta, but hey.
I figured you were going to laugh at that when you thought
that. Yeah, exactly. Again, I like the fact. So, they wrote this whole article, and I actually haven't read the whole article yet, but, they're building more of that backstory around the Jungle Cruise. And I believe, this is all playing back into, we're talking about the Explorer Society.
Yep.
Previously, this is all playing back into that. They're going to flesh out the Jungle Cruise. They're going to flesh out Tower Terror in Tokyo and all this stuff. And I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if this kind of stuff shows up in the show that's going to come out. Right.
Oh yeah, like Alberta Falls could absolutely be like a character in that show that they're going to put together, right? And by the way, I said daughter; she's granddaughter to Albert Falls. My bad.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Granddaughter, not daughter, because I'm sure somebody would have noticed. But yeah, no, this is very cool, and you know, it's making Alberta the one that founded the Jungle Cruise tour. You know, it talks about the Skipper Canteen and all that cool stuff. So, I'm not familiar with Tropical Hideaway at Disneyland. That's because I'm not a Disneyland person, but I'm sure you know what they're talking about there.
So that Tropical Hideaway actually has opened up recently, but it used to be an Aladdin dinner show, and it was right next to the Tiki Room. And so the short story is that Disney or Walt had originally planned for the Tiki Room to be a restaurant, and Tropical Hideaway is the final realization of that. So it's a tiki.
Oh yeah, I know what that is. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I do. I remember we talked about it on the show.
Yeah. So Tropical Hideaway is like the equivalent of the Skipper Canteen. It's not Jungle Cruise themed. It's more Tiki Room themed, but it's still all in that same area, right? Like it's that same vein. So yeah.
What's interesting about this though too is that they call out her different visits to different places. So like they mentioned Tropical Hideaway, but they also called out Mystic Point, which is where Mystic Manor is, the kind of haunted mansion thing at Hong Kong Disneyland. So, and then they also said something about the next trip she's taking, and calls out names and professions of people who will be joining her. So this is they're building a little mystery around this, which is kind of cool.
Again, I am really leaning towards this is going to all. This is the prologue to the show, and I mean, if it's anything like I feel like they're gonna ramp this up like the MCU, right? Like it's gonna turn into a thing like how we just had WandaVision, and now we've got Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then Loki and all that.
So excited for Loki.
Yeah, in the MCU, right? It's that they're gonna do the same thing here, where they're gonna tease some of this stuff, and then you'll get a whole bunch of it in the show, and then. It makes for an interesting development cycle between the parks and the shows, right? Is that you'll have a bunch of energy spent on the shows, and then you'll probably see some of that stuff pull back into the parks, like they're doing here, and it'll be kind of a back and forth. Which again, we talked about previously is I don't think I know I know we all kind of had our own views on what is the most important part of Disney. I think this is showing that it's not any, or all these parts are going to continue to play together. It's not that they're going to just abandon, shows or the theme parks or whatever. I think you're going to see them play more of them together.
Yeah. And so what are we going to call this? It's going to be the MKCU, is the Magic Kingdom Cinematic Universe. Is that what we're going to?
Well, I think maybe SEA will be, in the short term, the Society of
Cinematic Universe, Society of Explorers and Adventurers.
Yeah, I think we may be seeing the start of the SEA universe.
There's so much cool stuff they can do. I mean, I know we already talked about this at length on another episode, but the SEA, like, there's so much like mystery and backstory there. Like, there's so much they can do with it, and it makes it such a cool mystery series. I'm excited for what they're going to do with that. It's going to be really cool. And the unfortunate part is we got to wait for a while, right? So. Yeah, because I don't know when this is going to happen. So
yeah, that's the hard part is when you see this stuff so early on, the anticipation almost kills you, right?
It does. It does.
Yeah.
All right.
Speaking of anticipation.
Yeah, exactly.
So the next thing we have on here is Disneyland is reopening April 30th, which I thought
I was right.
Yeah. I know.
Listen, I've been wrong so many times on the show before. It's nice to be right occasionally, and I wasn't like dead on. Obviously, I said May 1st, but April 30th is pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, it's much better. I was being, I guess, far too optimistic that I thought that they could, try and open it early April, but. It sounds like, they were waiting for the decision from the government, and then they pulled the trigger on getting people brought back, which means they need time for training and, making sure that things are in place, before they invite guests back in. But still, we're about a month and 2 weeks or a month and a week out from, from this happening, which, if you think about, this is, it's been over a year since Disneyland has been open. Like
Crazy.
I never thought I would see that in my lifetime. Like, if you told me, Disneyland's going to be closed for a year. Yeah, right.
Well, that's, there was always that thing that they wanted to do Disneyland in the original, with the vacation movie, right? But then they wouldn't do it because Disneyland never closed.
Yeah.
Right. So, but they said they didn't do Disneyland for that. And it's weird. So it's weird to, a place that has been open, 365 days a year for so many years to be closed for a year. It's just, it's crazy, and it feels weird. And it's really great that it's now going to be reopening, and, they're going to put 10,000 people back to work. They're calling back, I think they said 10,000 cast members, right?
To start with. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, and that's the thing, is that this is all being gauged based on as the restrictions get lifted in California. So, similar to Disney World is, as they allow more and more, restrictions to be lifted, you will see, Disneyland is going to ramp up, and I think it'll ramp up even faster than Disney World did with letting people back. Disney World's been pretty slow in allowing people, but, I feel that Disneyland, because they've been closed for so long, I don't think they're going to waste any time with getting people back into the park.
I think World is going to get to a point. I mean, I would not be surprised if by the time we get to summertime that Disney World is back up over 50%.
Yeah, I was going to say, I could see it being, 60 to 70% capacity by the summer.
Which, truth be told, a lot of times when you go in the summertime and it's really busy at the parks, they're nowhere near capacity, right? So like it could feel busy there, and they could still only have 70% of the park full, right? Because capacity is a lot of people. It's a lot more people than you think, right?
Again, you have to go basically the week of Christmas to see capacity.
Exactly. So like most times you're there, at the most you're seeing 80 to 90% capacity at the most. So like if it's there and you're busy, that's really what you're seeing. So even if Disney opens back up, 60 to 70% capacity, that's almost back to normal, really, So but I thought the most interesting part of this whole announcement, and it was kind of a throwaway line, but they said that when Disneyland returns, when it opens, that Haunted Mansion is going to open back up with, quote, new magic. Now, what does that mean?
Yeah, So the interesting thing about Haunted Mansion in Disneyland is that over the years, and I saw this the last time we were there, which was in like 2016. So I know it's been a while, but they were having issues with lighting specifically, like the difference in lighting between the Disneyland and the Disney World one. It seemed like somebody replaced lights and they didn't calibrate things correctly, and it was really hard to see anything in Disneyland. So that was the first thing. What I've heard as a rumor is there was talks of them updating the hitchhiking ghosts to be the same as the ones in Disney World, which, I enjoy the ones in Disney World, but sometimes they don't work properly. And
are you talking about like at the end where they do the little thing with
the mirrors?
They take your head off and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. So having those as digital, because in Disneyland it's still physical animatronics, using a Pepper's Ghost effect, right? And so that's what I've heard as a rumor. I just hope that they've done new magic. They've done the Hatbox Ghost, which that animatronic was fantastic. It's a beautiful animatronic. I've seen it myself. The only concern I have is if they do too much of that, then you lose the Haunted Mansion, right?
Sure.
And so to quote WandaVision, that this is like talking about Theseus's boat, right?
Yeah.
Once you've replaced enough of it, is it still the original?
Still the same.
Yeah.
Well, I almost, in a weird way, though, kind of want to see something new here. Like I want to see something that's like got like that you're not seeing anywhere else. And I feel like again, I was watching the Imagineering thing again, and one of the mandates that Bob Iger came in with was putting new technology in the old rides, like plussing the old rides, which, that was a whole big thing with Walt too, is that he wanted to keep improving the rides, keep putting new technology in them, keep, improving what they were doing. So I'm almost wondering if there's going to be just some new effects, just a new way to do some of the effects, more technologically advanced way to do some of the different effects. I mean, I guess we'll find out soon enough, within a month here, but and maybe it's just minor. Maybe it's like what you're talking about. Maybe it's just that ending scene and that's it. Or, maybe it's more than that.
That ending scene is not minor. I mean, that's
pretty big. Yeah.
That's a pretty substantial change. But yeah, you're right. Is, if they're careful about it, and this is my only concern when they do this kind of stuff. And I see this stuff on the Facebook groups all the time, is, people are like, don't change anything. And you're right. Disney does want to change, but, it's that fine line between, doing it just because it's cool and making sure that it actually fits with what you're doing,
that it makes the ride better.
Yeah. Like, I think about, like, even simple effects, like when you're coming into the graveyard and all the ghosts coming up out of the graves and everything, right? There's that effect where it's like there's just ghosts flying up all over the place.
Yeah, yeah.
And, they could definitely do some really cool stuff with that. They could take that effect and with, new projection technology, they could do some, really impressive stuff coming into that scene. But if they just, went, let's replace the entire graveyard with digital screens and have, every, no more animatronics and just everything digital, I would be like, what are we doing here? Like, this is...
that would be going too far.
Exactly.
I don't even think they would do that, because I think Disney has... I think they try to use screens sparingly, and I know that, like, if you look at Ratatouille, like, a lot of it is screens, but a lot of it is also physical sets, and the same thing with, like, Rise of the Resistance. Some of it is screens, some of it's physical effects, but I think they do try to use them sparingly, and I don't think that they are of the mindset of, like, a Universal where it's like, hey, we can replace everything with screens. Like, I don't think they want to do that. I think the animatronics are in, like, the lifeblood of the Disney company and the lifeblood of Imagineering. It's something that started with them, and it's just part of their history and their heritage. And I think it'll always be there, you know?
And I think for me, a main reason for going there is because it is physical and tactile, right? Like, it's not, like you said, I am turned off by, like, Universal type rides where it's just a screen. And that's not to say, Star Wars definitely is just a screen, or not Star Wars, Star Tours is a screen, but, there is a certain amount of, there's
physical effects in there too.
Yeah,
the animatronic in the cabin with you, and
exactly,
it's not just the screen.
Yeah, and that's my thing is, I just worry, something like the Haunted Mansion, it's like, is it, I hope they're not looking at it from a stance of, just doing it for the sake of doing it. It's like, if it's not broken, why are you fixing it? Right.
Yeah. So I'll be interested to see what it is. Right.
Yeah. I'll be very curious as well. It's just, it makes me nervous because the original Haunted Mansion is, very much a unique experience. And, if they're not careful, they can destroy that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. I feel like we're like, we're one of our, this is a long episode.
We're getting longer and longer on our episodes again. So
yeah, we're falling apart again.
Exactly.
Remember when we were like trying to stick to an hour, like really hard, and then we just forgot about it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just one of those things
it's okay.
But I think it's good because it means that we feel there's enough to talk about. Yeah. Anyway. All right. Let's go ahead and wrap up. So as usual, you guys can reach us at welcomehomepodcast@gmail.com. Make sure, we've, as we mentioned in the listener questions, we've had lots of people email us, guys like Jim, thank you for sending us that email and, just sharing your experiences, sharing what you guys are doing. And, it's a great way to get questions to us as well. If, you don't want to email us, if you haven't joined the Welcome Home, Facebook group, which is called the Welcome Home Disney Waitlist, make sure you join us in there. We do ask for listener questions in there. And a lot of our listener questions do come from, we do a weekly thread now where you can post your questions. So if you have a question for us, make sure you get it in there, and maybe you'll be featured on the next episode. So yeah, you can find us on Facebook as Welcome Home Podcast. We also have the YouTube channel, which is Welcome Home Podcast as well. Anytime we do live episodes, stuff like that, you'll see it on there. You know, Tom will be having a trip coming up in April. So yeah, you guys will be able to catch some video on there, hopefully. And also you can follow on Instagram as Welcome Home Pics. There will be, we do post on Instagram, but again, going into actually going back to the parks, you guys should see some more activity on these platforms. So if you're not subscribed to them, make sure you do so that you can catch us whenever we post stuff. And as usual, if you guys want to get some of our merchandise, mugs, t-shirts, if you have a trip coming up, you need some masks, you can grab some masks from the store, and that's on store.welcomehomepodcast.com. So make sure you check that out. And as usual, as we mentioned earlier in the episode, if you want to leave us a review on iTunes or any other service that allows you to leave reviews, please do so. We do appreciate those. We do read them. And it does help more people find the podcast.
Yeah, as long as it's 5-star and it's good. Listen, I give honest reviews, all right? I gave an honest review of something, whatever.
Yeah, you're going to just invite a whole slew of 1 stars now because you didn't like Dr. Pepper.
I just didn't like the 0 version of it, that's all. Don't forget to subscribe to Welcome Home Podcast so you can be reminded every time we release a new episode. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, just about any other podcast available. I found out the other day that we're on Audible. I didn't even know that they had podcasts on Audible, and sure enough, there we are. So just about any podcast app you can find us. Just search for Welcome Home, the one that's Disney and DVC. Just a reminder to our listeners, Welcome Home Podcast is for entertainment only. We are not employed by the Walt Disney Company, and as such, any and all opinions we express on the show are our own. So please consult a DVC representative or Disney cast member for more information about anything we talked about today. Huge thank you to DVC Rental Store for sponsoring this episode. They've been our partners for many years now, so please check them out if you want to rent some DVC points and stay in deluxe accommodations for less. Join us next time for more Disney Parks discussion, of course, more DVC talk. We hope to see you all real soon.
This is Skipper Albert Awol, the voice of the jungle, signing off from Welcome Home Podcast on the DVC.
Do a huddle when we hit its hair. How she can cuddle is no man's affair. I looked around from pole to pole, found her in a sugar bowl. Look out!